Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this build, this is a hybrid build. This is a hybrid Dex Faith build. It's a really enjoyable one. This is something where you can do a lot of AR on the damage with the weapons we're using, and then also throw in a whole bunch of different lightning incantations to make for a really powerful build. Interestingly, there's a little bit of story behind this build. So I was doing a build for the Tree Spear. I know the Tree Spear is really popular, but I was at the Fire Giant and it just wasn't doing a lot of damage to him. I had a pretty decent build for him. I was able to posture break him too, but as far as the weapon itself, it just wasn't making the cut for new game +7 damage. So I decided with the stats I had, instead of respeccing, to see what I can do with around 50 Dexterity and 40 Faith. I've tried hybrid builds many different times, but the issue around 150 is if you're not focusing on one main or primary stat, you end up being pretty okay at everything and basically more or less a master of none. So the issue here for me was trying to find a balance for something that was really powerful while also being able to use faith and make use of the good amount of dexterity we have too. So after the recent buffs to claws on patch 1.09, I decided to use it in a combination with Electrify Armament and then throwing in a whole bunch of different lightning incantations to see how much damage we could do and if we can make use of a solid hybrid build. And the fact is, you can actually do this. See, the claws are so good, even with 50 dexterity, they're so powerful. And by the way, around 50 dexterity, if you are to put them in the lightning affinity, you will get less damage than having where I'm at with 40 faith, and then we're going to be using Electrify Armament. That's going to give us around 90 more damage than if we were to go with lightning affinity, so that's the better way to go here. And the damage you can get out of these is absolutely fantastic, and then throwing in powerful incantations makes for a very solid build. Needless to say, with this combination and setup, the Fire Giant wasn't too troublesome at all, and it ended up doing a lot of damage and a lot of power to him. And since we were building up successive attack stuff, which is generic damage, we're able to occasionally throw in lightning incantations for massive damage in between breaks as well, which ultimately made taking care of one of the more powerful bosses in the game on New Game +7 something that wasn't even that challenging to do. And again, claws are really powerful now, and since they're lightweight, by the way, we've also went with the Crucible Knight set, so we have 71 poise as well as decent defense. This is a very well-rounded build, very powerful, and it's a lot of fun to use too. And you're going to see it in action on the dragon here again too, because we're going to mix the claws with Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this build in general because we get to mix up a whole bunch of different things. Being able to use faith stuff, I've been doing all faith builds this week, along with dexterity, makes for a solid combination. One thing to note real quick, if you're not on the Discord, definitely be sure to join that. There's a ton of people in there now. It's been a fantastic community that's been growing like crazy. We're almost at 400. It's just really been incredible. I appreciate everybody, by the way. And definitely be sure to sub too. This is a channel you're not going to want to miss out on. Do builds pretty much like every day lately. It's been absolutely crazy, and we're going to keep at it. So be sure to sub too. Let's get back to the build. So getting back to the build, you can see I'm mixing in Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. We're going to be mixing in Lightning Spear as well too. This is a fantastic combination overall, and it makes solid use of the claws as well. I'm also going to show you how they do because I did this in my other video, obviously higher dexterity, but with 50 dexterity and Bloodflame on them, if you just swap out one of the talismans, you can get massive damage too. So we're going to go over that right now, which gives you even more versatility if you just realized in the sense that this build is capable of doing lightning damage, of doing massive AR through dexterity, and then also being able to do bleed as well, a substantial amount of it. It does make for a very powerful combination. After we put the Godskin Noble to sleep here, you're going to see how much damage we can do, generally speaking, with the bleed as we swapped out Lord of Bloods for the Lightning Scorpion Charm, I believe, here. So just one talisman difference, and we're able to take him down before he even phases with ease. That wasn't even difficult whatsoever. Absolutely shredded him with the claws. So you can always switch to Bloodflame Blade to turn into a fantastic bleed build as well, and we're going to show it on mobs here. This is something that's a little bit interesting too because we get to do lightning damage with Lightning Spear, and I know buffs aren't working for incantations that well right now, but hopefully that gets fixed soon, and I do believe that will be fixed eventually. Hopefully it wasn't intended, because it doesn't seem like it's intended for faith buffs not to buff faith. It would be kind of weird, but we'll see as time goes on because I think it's been close to 2 weeks now. Hopefully eventually that's something that's patched up though, maybe a 1.09.1. Anyways, back to Lightning Spear, pretty powerful against mobs. And then obviously the claws are quite good too because we got the electricity, the lightning damage on them as well, and everything kind of combines for something really cool and fun. Yeah, as far as hybrid builds go, they're really hard to pull off, as I mentioned, especially at meta levels, because we're always looking for that one stat we can just maximize so we can get a ridiculous amount of damage in whatever we're using. So it's nice to see that something does work, that there are things that do work where you can combine stats. And in this one, I'm going to show you my stats later, but we have around 50 Dexterity and 40 Faith, and we're going to show off the claws here, how they do with lightning damage in quick succession. This is against the Godskin duo, by the way, in New Game +7, so I think they combine for around 40,000 HP. That's a fair bit. We're going to put them to sleep, though, to see how much damage we can do, and to see, in general, how much damage everything combines for against them. Alright, after a couple buffs, I like using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength here. They're the basic 2 buffs that I use for most of my builds, because that's going to give us more physical damage, and then we're going to boost ourselves with the lightning damage here and see if we can shred the Godskin duo. First, we'll start with the smaller one, who I don't know if he takes more damage or has less HP, but he tends to disappear faster. At least that's my opinion on attacking him first. And then we're going to go for the big guy here after we throw an Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike for fun for a substantial amount of damage. And then we're back to the claws because we're mixing everything in, and it's really enjoyable to mix up the spells, the successive attack combinations. It's just something that's enjoyable in general, and it makes for a solid build. As I mentioned, this is something that you could do where you can just mix in incantations and make use of a hybrid build. So I did get a little lucky here since I only had one sleeping pot and the heavier one came back. For anyone wondering, by the way, the thinner one, the Godskin Apostle, will actually avoid most of the time the sleeping pots. He can dodge them just like Melania can and whatnot. However, you can bait him into being able to hit him with them, or if you hit the other one near him, he'll go to sleep, so you can do that too. Again, though, a little bit more challenging to get the sleeping pots on him. Let's get to stats and equipment. So for equipment, we have the Raptor's Talons, preferably +25 on Keen Affinity to make use of the Dexterity. We have the Gravelstone Seal for the boost on Lightning Incantations. We have the Crucible Knight Armor set on, which I think gives us around 71 poise. Rotten Wing Sword Insignia. Millicent's Prosthesis. We have the Lightning Scorpion Charm. We have the Dragoncrest Great Shield Talisman. And then we're using the Lightning tier and the Thorny tier as well to boost those successive hits. Let's get into stats. For stats here, we have around 50 Dexterity. We're getting around 55 Dexterity with Millicent's Prosthesis because it gives us an extra 5. And then we went with 40 Faith, and everything else is really up to you. Should go for at least a minimum of 50 Vigor. And then obviously we've got a fairly decent amount of Endurance too, so we can carry the Crucible Knight set, get a good amount of poise for this build as well. Everything combines together pretty well, at least in my opinion, turns around into a solid build. And again, it was a whole bunch of fun too, so there's that also. Let's get into buffs. Keep in mind the Arcane isn't scaling with anything, that's just a starting class that I had. I forget to mention that all the time, but yeah, you don't need the 14 Arcane, so the minimum there, or whatever your character has, is fine enough. Let's get into buffs. First thing up is the tier, then we're going to use Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, you can tap her off your FP, you can use Blessings Boon too, and then we're going to Electrify Armament, and we're going to end up doing a lot of damage with these claws. We can throw in the Lightning Incantations too for a solid build. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was something that was just a little bit of different that just came to mind as I was messing around with different things. Started with a Tree Spirit build, ended up turning into a Raptor's Talons build with Lightning Incantations, and somehow worked, but even so, quite enjoyable, quite fun with this one. I hope it was something that everybody can enjoy and try, because again, this is something where you can mix it up, take advantage of a hybrid build that actually does a substantial amount of damage. By the way, if you're not on the Discord, definitely be sure to check that out. If you're not subbed and you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds that are on my channel. Thanks for watching. As always, I will catch you guys there.